Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. We got to get into Smackdown. They did the same damn thing they did to Smackdown that they did to Raw, which is essentially turned it into the matches show. Except for maybe they mixed in some vignettes on this one. So that was the major difference. Let's talk about the show. The wrestling media is still very angry at Triple H. Apparently, there's a guy going around now who says WWE PR said it was a stupid thing to do for him to ask about Ronda Rousey. And he was very offended. He ran to Post Wrestling and started talking about this. And John Pollock wrote an entire article saying that the wrestling media needs to stick together when they get called out like this. When somebody is attacked, you're supposed to galvanize around them. I think the mistake is that the media wants to be the story. Why are we still talking about this a week later? I just don't... Why do you want to be the center of the story? If he was wrong, say he was wrong, and then you move on, There has to be other issues for us to discuss, but the media wants to talk about how great the media is. And then they want to talk about how terrible Triple H or WWE or whatever treats the media. But guess what? If your job is to be a truth teller, you're going to piss people off. So you should take it in stride and move on. I don't understand why we have to harp on this for a whole week. Is this the first time the media has ever been called a liar or called disreputable? No, it's not. The media is always called a liar and disreputable. If you stand by what you said, then stand by it and move on. Harping on it, or whatever, asking for apologies, it's like, well, come on. Get out of here with that crap. You're not the star of the show, Let's just get done. Just forget it, okay? I know that the NBA and the NFL and all that, they bend over backwards for the media, because the media is the lifeblood of these leagues, and these leagues are monopolies, by the way. So they have to have a really good relationship, so they don't let the players go out there and say crazy stuff to the media. They fine them. Same thing with coaches and various other people. They don't let that stuff happen, but this is the wrestling media, not nearly the same. Yes, I think Triple H was wrong, but I think the media is wrong too by trying to make the story about them instead of making the story about the issue. The story is about the issue, Triple H did not answer the question about the Ronda Rousey incident. We certainly should be criticizing him for that, not for him saying that the media is not reputable. Who cares about that? That's his opinion. Who cares? Also, Alicia Taylor is now the ring announcer for Smackdown, which I kind of called on NXT. It wasn't sure that she was going to be the ring announcer for Smackdown, but once I heard they were moving Mike Rome to NXT, I was like, well, clearly they're moving Alicia to SmackDown. So she did a very good job here. Now, as we work our way towards the show, we find out that Bobby Lashley is like the 5th person who was initially meant to be in the King of the Ring tournament that is now out of the King of the Ring tournament. He is replaced by Angelo Dawkins. So let's do all the Queen of the Ring stuff first, just to get it out of the way. I don't remember the bracket. I really don't. But Naomi was defeated by Nia Jax. This match had a second rope hurricanrana by Naomi. Nia Jax has improved tremendously. To be able to do that front flip, Nia Jax has improved a lot. Big on Nia Jax doing that move. The match was better than I thought it was going to be. I'm very surprised they had Naomi lose clean. I would have thought they would have had Nia Jax cheat, but they want Nia Jax to go into her next match strong because she's probably losing that match. The next match after this was Jade Cargill versus Piper Niven. This started with Bayley being asked who does she think is going to win the King of the Ring tournament, and she said she wants to see a little bit out of Jade Cargill. She wants to see what Jade Cargill can do. Chelsea Green says, you overlooking Piper Niven. She's going to squash Jade Cargill and win this match, and that did not happen. In fact, Jade Cargill picked up Piper Niven for a Blue Thunder Bomb that got the crowd all hyped up. They were very excited for that, and she actually did hit Jaded. This is another great performance by the big girl because Piper Niven did all the work in terms of getting picked up. But Jade Cargill has improved tremendously. She's done a really good job of improving. I'm very impressed. So good job for Jade Cargill. The match after this, directly after this, was Bianca Belair versus Candice LeRae, in a match I really didn't care to see. I wish Bianca Belair had won that match in 2 minutes, but it seemed like it took her about 5 or 6 or 7. Bianca wins the match, clearing. It was pretty obvious that was going to happen. So the next round is pretty much already set. It'll be Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill, which is a match they probably should have ran at WrestleMania or around the time Jade picked up Nia Jax around the Royal Rumble. And it will be either Michin or Tiffany Stratton that will be the opponent for Bianca Belair. They will be running that match at a house show. So Tiffany Stratton is likely to win that match and probably going to win that match at a house show. Why? Come on. You're going to have Bianca beat Candice LeRae at a house show. Tiffany Stratton needs to have the TV time. You need to be investing in her. What are you doing? I don't know, man. I get not wanting to put Mia Yim on TV. She blows. But for goodness sakes. Maybe putting tournament matches at house shows is not a good idea after all. You know? So maybe it's not a good idea after all. It's clear that they're setting up something with this tournament. Bianca and Jade are on different brackets that it's likely that they could be the final. I don't think they'll get to the finals, however. I do believe that we're probably looking at a Stratton Cargill final, and that ought to be fun. You know, I definitely think from the Smackdown side, you're certainly looking at Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton. And that could be interesting because both Bianca and Jade can't make it to the finals. Of the two, I think Bianca is the most beatable of the two because she's been around for a while and you can screw her. Jade probably shouldn't be getting pinned anytime soon. So I would probably find some unique way of getting Bianca out of the tournament. She probably shouldn't even be in it in the first place. With her pedigree and being a multiple-time world champion, she doesn't really need to be in the Queen of the Ring tournament. You could have replaced her with somebody else who could have used the push or used the attention. I mean, they're showing video packages for Blair Davenport. Why not just put her in the tournament since the person in this spot is not winning it? Blair Davenport is fairly new. You could have put her over to a degree. Now, she can't wrestle Candice LeRae because, you know, she's a heel, and Candice LeRae is a heel. But you could have made it work by putting her in a different position or something like that. But Bianca's in it. You could easily take her out of it by having probably some damage control nonsense or something like that where she gets taken out. And it's probably best for Jade to go forward. I don't think you do something stupid like Jade and Bianca on television in the middle of this damn tournament. That's goofy. Maybe they'll do, I think they played into it a little bit, that Indy Hartwell attacked Bianca from behind and swept her leg, and she was selling the leg after the match. Maybe they're going to do another injury angle, and Bianca is taken out of the tournament, which I guess is another interesting way of doing it, so she doesn't have to take a loss. So maybe that's one way of doing things. But the SmackDown Women's Tournament wasn't terrible. You know, I like Jade, like Bianca. I like Tiffany Stratton too. Would have been nice if I could have gotten to see them on this show. But whatever. Now let's go over to the men's King of the Ring tournament because this included the main event. First, as it was noted before, Bobby Lashley is out of the tournament. He was replaced by Angelo Dawkins. Angelo Dawkins faced Tama Tonga. So Tama Tonga is part of this new bloodline that is headed by Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa had a promo segment backstage with Paul Heyman. Interestingly enough, Heyman comes up to Solo, asks to speak to him alone. The two of them have a bit of a chat in which Solo learns that Paul is Roman Reigns' wise man, Not necessarily Solo's, but he loves Solo. He loves Solo so very much. Solo was looking very dapper, very debonair in his suit with his black gloves, his black motorcycle gloves. It's a really interesting look. So Solo is upset with Paul. He's upset with Paul because Paul lied about talking to Roman Reigns. And because Paul lied, the bloodline slipped down the draft. And he says, that cost us some money. You know, Roman Reigns lost our title. And you lying cost us a draft spot, which took money out of my pocket. And Paul is stammering, which is what he usually does. So then Solo says, well, you haven't talked to Roman, have you? And Paul had to admit that he had not. Well, Solo said, well, I have. And so Roman said that I'm in charge until he comes back. So now you're my wise man. And Paul is talked and coerced, I guess you could say, into hugging Solo. And they all support Tama Tonga. Before we move on to this tournament match, everybody knows it's a damn lie. You can look at Solo and tell it's a damn lie. It is not true that he talked to Roman Reigns. You can forget it. Now, before we go into this tournament, there was some chitter chatter floating about. I saved it here instead of doing it in news and notes, that there are quote unquote people within WWE who are worried that Jacob Fatu is going to outshine Solo Sikoa. Trust me, nobody's thinking about that. Nobody cares. It's not because he can't. That's not the question. The question is it really a concern to have? Is that the new guy you're going to bring in to be a heavy hitter and your bloodline is going to be too good? He's going to be better than this guy. So, what's the problem? Solo isn't like a real leader anyway. And if, Jacob Fatu comes in, crushes the building, and becomes the breakout star of the bloodline, that's great. Because you can do good stuff with him. I fail to see what the real issue is. It doesn't sound to me like people really hold Solo in very high regard. He beat John Cena and then did nothing for several months. I guarantee you, nobody is backstage with their teeth chattering, thinking, oh my God, my Solo Sikoa project is going to fumble. It's going to go down the drain. 3 years of hard work. No, they're going to say, well, it didn't work with Solo. Maybe it'll work with Jacob. And they'll just put Solo somewhere else. He'll just go back to standing behind somebody else. But it seems like they actually want to do something with him because he's established. And that seems to be the big picture here is Solo is established on the roster. He's gotten some pretty good wins. He's been on TV for a while. These other guys are new. So they're going to use Solo to establish these other guys. And then they'll be able to branch out and blossom on their own. No problem there. I don't have a problem with this. This is good. So Angelo Dawkins has to have a match with Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga's theme song, Basura, as you would have expected, because it's Def Rebel. It blows. Tama Tonga wins the match. Didn't like his finisher. I don't even really recognize it. I think it was like a flatliner. It was kind of suck ass, actually. The Street Profits were beat up after the match by the Bloodline because Montez Ford was jumping all over those guys during the match to help Angelo Dawkins. Poor Street Profits. Lashley wasn't even there tonight. Oh boy. Tough. Carmelo Hayes and Baron Corbin, they have an issue. It leads to their King of the Ring tournament match. Baron Corbin is back from his excursion in NXT. Carmelo Hayes actually congratulated him on being called up and then asked, what was his draft spot because he doesn't remember it. Baron Corbin thought, oh yeah, you're making jokes. So he decided he's going to offer Carmelo Hayes some advice, and Carmelo Hayes says, I don't really take advice. I work in AEW. I work in AEW in my head, but physically I want my checks to say WWE. And he said the last guy who tried to give me some advice backed out of this tournament rather than me wrestle circles around him. He's talking about Lashley. Then he says, well, I guess I got to wrestle circles around you. So Baron Corbin is wrestling Carmelo Hayes, a match I believe I just saw on NXT a couple of weeks ago. This time, however, Carmelo Hayes wins the match with a small package to sort of protect Baron Corbin, but he did win. Carmelo Hayes, very good talent. Baron Corbin, very meh talent. He's still there. 10 years in WWE, still around. So that's a victory in and of itself. Round of applause for Baron Corbin for not being fired this week. Carmelo Hayes, it looked like he might have a good chance in this tournament until I remembered that Randy Orton is in it. So you can forget it. And Randy Orton's his next opponent too, so you can forget it. Ought to be a fun match though. Ought to be a great learning experience for Carmelo Hayes, but to have 3 matches on SmackDown and to lose 2 of them, and one to Cody, which he probably shouldn't have even lost, and now going to end up having to lose to Randy. Oh boy. But what can you say? I mean, the Booker of the Year, Booker of the Decade, this guy's got the book. He's going to make stars out of guys by beating them 100 times or having them win matches and then, hide them after they win. AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. 2 guys that everybody told me was absolutely washed beyond belief. And the booking did not always do them favors. Went out there and had a really good match. I love this main event. So it started with promos. Randy Orton cut a promo, talked about, wanting to fight Tama Tonga because they took out Kevin Owens, who he referred to as my tag team partner. It's like, ugh. So he wants to fight Tama Tonga, and he says that he's going to make sure that RKO is not going to be out of nowhere. He's going to see it coming. AJ Styles, on the other hand, says that Backlash, he had Cody Rhodes beat. And he's going to win this tournament and earn his way back to a match against Cody Rhodes and then beat him for that title. They had this match. It was really good between 2 guys in their 40s. One of them is closer to 50 than 40. But hell, they're both closer to 50 than 40. And they killed it. And they didn't go out there and do a bunch of flippity doodads and a bunch of other shit. It's just basic ring psychology, working holds, and, the crowd got into it because they're good personalities and people like them. So it's really simple. RKO, 1, 2, 3. AJ Styles loses. Unfortunately, he lost back-to-back weeks. Now what do you do? AJ put on such a great performance at Backlash. I know Meltzer gave it 5 stars. I don't care what Meltzer thinks. I was very surprised to hear that AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes, the 3-star savior, Cody Rhodes, got a 5-star match. I just kind of shrugged and was like, I don't know. Who cares? It's Meltzer. Who gives a shit, really? Who gives a damn? In any event, poor AJ Styles, he loses. Now, LA Knight and Santos Escobar, the winner of that match, is going to wrestle Tama Tonga. And this match will occur at the house show. It is another situation in which both of these guys could use the TV time. They could use the platform. LA Knight, supposedly one of your most over baby faces. I keep being told that time and time again by people on the internet who want to correct me. And he's never featured. He's not going to be on TV for 2 or 3 weeks. Didn't get on to be on the pay-per-view. And then when LA Knight does get on the show, he's got to wrestle Tama Tonga and probably lose. I think it's fairly set up on the SmackDown side that it's going to be Orton and Tonga in the main match. Is going to be in the finals. I think that's pretty obvious, right? So, because that's the storyline that's been built up throughout the show, throughout the tournament. So I'm going to imagine that Tama Tonga and Randy Orton are going to get to that spot. At that point, LA Knight is going to be knocked out of the tournament when he probably should be close to winning it. If we're being honest, if you want to keep this guy hot, you want to keep him interesting, he should probably be one of the top guys in winning this tournament. He probably should win the SmackDown bracket and go against Gunther on, from the Raw bracket. And you should definitely be considering LA Knight winning the King of the Ring tournament. Instead of he's going to wrestle a match on a house show just to wrestle Tama Tonga and probably lose. Now, I'm going to hope that he doesn't lose, but there's no guarantees in wrestling outside of death and taxes. So that's the King of the Ring tournament. That's the bulk of the show, was the King and Queen of the Ring. There were some vignettes for DIY who was coming to SmackDown. I wish they wouldn't. I wish they would reconsider. Shinsuke Nakamura is coming to SmackDown. Says he's coming to destroy and claim the pinnacle of SmackDown. And all that sounds very good, but I don't see that occurring. And Andrade El Idolo, who literally called himself Andrade El Idolo, who said, "Is this my destiny to be in the WWE? And my destiny, the era ends on SmackDown." So, all right. This is fine. Why isn't Andrade in this tournament? He should be a guy who also should be in the running to win this tournament. If you want trying to make a star out of somebody, this would have been a great idea for you to put Andrade in it. But I guess if he's not going to win it, why put him in it? They also did a vignette for Blair Davenport, but I believe I talked about that before. I do like the Blair Davenport promo because she said it's not enough to win. You have to send a message, and that's what I do. And I was like, oh, okay, that tells us a lot more about her character than they usually do with these promos, which doesn't usually tell us anything about characters. At least you know that Blair Davenport ain't really about just winning. She's about to go out there and hurt folks and do damage, which is very good. Okay. Now, the big segment on the show was Nick Aldis reveals that Cody Rhodes' next opponent, hand-picked opponent, he didn't have to really earn it, was Logan Paul. Now, technically, I guess you could say Logan Paul did earn it. He is the United States champion. He is the longest reigning individual champion in WWE. Well, now champion of any kind. And then he cut the promo on Cody by running down his resume. Called himself the rocket fuel of WWE. Talked about his viral moments. And it says that him and Cody came into WWE at the same time they debuted at WrestleMania together, and said that it's not Cody's story. You can't finish the story. It's not your story. It's my story. And so Cody gets on the microphone, talks about Logan Paul's physical accomplishments, talk about him standing up to Money Mayweather, and said he wants to be a Grand Slam champion. And in order to do that, he's got to win that United States Championship. He says that all these great things about Logan Paul, he's also narcissistic and disrespectful. And he says that you want to give yourself credit for all these viral moments and all the success of WWE, but that's not for you. It's not even for me. This is a team effort. And that King and Queen of the Ring, which is an annoying name to say, you could just call it King of the Ring. At King and Queen of the Ring, you're going to learn where you are on this team. So they just picked Logan Paul's name out of a hat and just said, you're the opponent. They're going to do a contract signing next week. I can almost guarantee you that United States title is not going to be on the line. I can almost guarantee you that. They're going to back out of that U.S. title thing real quick. I don't know how I feel about Logan Paul just being put in this position. I'm okay with it because he's a beatable opponent and Cody doesn't need a threat right now. At the same time, there's no real heat between the two of them. It's an AJ Styles situation all over again. You're feeding another really good worker to Cody so that he can have a really good match. But you're not telling any stories. This is not a story. This is Nick Aldis picked Logan Paul out of all the names of all the guys on your roster. He picked Logan Paul, and now he's got to wrestle Logan Paul. It's like, okay. Why do this tournament and the winner gets a championship match if Nick Aldis can just pick you? I get it. He's a United States champion. He's been champion for a long time now, but come on. Why couldn't we do something better than that? Maybe it should have been an issue where Cody challenged him or something. I don't know. Could do something slightly different. But I'm okay typically with the match. It's going to be a really good match. Logan Paul is really good in the ring. Cody could use that. Logan Paul, if he had enough time, could get a lot of heat. I don't know if they're going to work. And they got 2 weeks, I think. So not a lot of time to get any heat. And I'm just wondering when Cody's, next chapter begins. When does he actually start doing something that gets heat in this title run? Because he's just going to be beating up heels, especially guys that we know are not going to win. This thing is going to get tired out really quickly. But I'm okay with him wrestling Logan Paul. It ought to be fun at the very least. So the Logan Paul Cody Rhodes segment was a letdown because they could have done so much more in order to build some heat for this thing. The tournament matches were fine. The vignettes were the highlights, I think. I really liked the vignettes. It's just, unfortunately, everybody who's featured in a vignette on this show probably could have been better off on this show. And it's just unusual that, they would do things this way. But they want the tournament to dominate at least this episode of SmackDown and this episode of Raw, and therefore that's what they did. So we moving on to round 2 of the tournament, where hopefully we can start filling in the rest of the card for this King and Queen of the Ring thing. Because how many I guess there's only going to be 5 matches on the show, and one's going to be the King of the Ring, the other one's going to be Queen of the Ring, and one's going to be a World Championship match. And they'll probably throw some kind of tag team title match on there. Maybe the Intercontinental Championship would be on the line as well. That'll be 5 matches, and that's about the amount of time Triple H likes to use. And that'll be it. So, unfortunate. But I really thought SmackDown wasn't terrible. It was less draining than Raw, but I think that's probably because the show was shorter. Now, I heard that they're having issues when it comes to moving tickets in Scotland due to the absurd cost of the tickets. That the tickets in France, the average ticket price was $300 American, and that it's about that in Scotland as well. And that's starting to really slow things up because people are like, whoa, you're charging a whole lot of money. But they don't realize, man, this is a kind of a prestige show. I think that the market will not bear them doing this forever. So WWE better get in there and steal these houses while they can. I'm surprised there were not more complaints about the price of tickets in France. But I heard this when they went to Wales. There was a lot of talk about the price of tickets. I believe there was also a little bit of that when it came to Australia as well. Now, there has been some Ticketmaster, Live Nation issues in the United States where people have sued Ticketmaster and Live Nation for having a monopoly and having all these exorbitant fees. I don't know if that's true in other countries as well, but I would look into that. I would certainly look into maybe the companies that they use to sell the tickets have jacked the prices up super high due to fees and different things like this, and that's why the tickets are $300. Or are the tickets $300 because WWE is like, hey, it costs us a hell of a lot of money to run this venue when we could run somewhere else? You got to pay the opportunity cost. And I would look into that if I were a smarter, more diligent YouTuber, but I only do research projects every once in a while. I'm not looking too hard into why WWE is having struggles to sell tickets in Scotland. And maybe, I don't care. And I think the show will eventually sell out anyway. It's just, there's some people griping about the cost of the tickets right now. I think that, give them another paycheck or two, they'll be able to get the tickets, for God's sakes. I would go because I don't think WWE is going to be skipping around Europe pretty regularly. I know there's some people who seem to think so. That, the France thing, it really worked out. The Puerto Rico thing, that worked too. They're going to be in Germany later, I believe, or is it Austria, one or the other, for another show. And they think, oh, we're just going to be able to do B shows overseas. And it's like, it's working now because it's a novel idea. And you're hitting essentially virgin territories that haven't had shows in a really long time. But you're not going to be able to do France $300 tickets every year. That's probably just not going to work. So they stole the house here. They're probably going to be able to steal Scotland. They'll probably hit another couple of other places. I think they might do really well. But for the most part, they need to go back to shoring up the United States. I'm not sure there's enough places in Europe where they can get this thing to work long term. But I would be interested in them doing it in Japan. I'm really interested in them doing another Japanese show like Beast from the East or something like that. And maybe having Smackdown from Japan and Raw from Japan. I would, or Raw from Japan in addition to a pay-per-view. I would love that. That would be great. I would be interested in that. You know, maybe they could do another show in one of these other Arab countries like Dubai or something. United Arab Emirates. I know UFC does a lot of shows in like Dubai and, you know, the UAE and stuff like this. And maybe that's the goal. You know, once Europe complains too much, they just start going and asking the Arabs, like, please give us some more money. And we'll run shows there. Speaking of which, and this is going to be the thing I end on, they're renegotiating the new Saudi deal. And the Saudis want WrestleMania or a Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. And I think for the money that they give WWE, they absolutely should have a WrestleMania. Now that I realize that you can have these Saudi shows and they're on in the middle of the day, you absolutely can have WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, and I will not complain. Why? Because then WrestleMania will be over at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's great, right? That's phenomenal. You want to end WrestleMania before 6 o'clock? Oh, that's great. I'm 40 years old, man. I'm not trying to be up till 1 in the morning. You know, I'm okay with you punching the clock at at 7 o'clock and saying, I'll see you next year, everybody. I'll be great with that. And plus, man, they deserve it. If you're going to pay them all that money, you should get back-to-back WrestleManias, if anything. You know, so maybe WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble if you can. I'm not mad at you. But it'd be a very interesting way for a country to get WrestleMania to say, we'll just give you $100 million a trip. Well, damn. You know, can I come too? Can I show up for WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia? You know, goddamn. All right. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.